It was a Tuesday. The sun was streaming through my kitchen window, catching on the dust motes dancing in the air. I was wiping the counter, the smell of lemon cleaner sharp in my nose. My life, in that moment, felt exactly as it should be. Full. Warm. Loved. And then I found it. A single, crumpled note, fallen behind the bread bin. I smoothed it out, my eyes scanning the words written in my son-in-law's familiar hand. And just like that, the family I thought I knew, the love I thought was real, it all vanished. This is my real-life story. My name is Amita. For the longest time, I considered myself one of the lucky ones. After my husband, Shen, passed away 5 years ago, the world felt very quiet. Too quiet. But my daughter, Prima, she was my anchor. We've always been close. She's my only child. We'd talk every day, sometimes about nothing at all. She and her husband, Rosh, they lived just 20 minutes away. And Rosh, he was more than a son-in-law. He felt like the son I never had. He'd call me just to check in. He always remembered to bring my favorite sweet when he visited. He'd call me Mom with such affection, it would mend a little piece of the hole Sean left behind. They were doing well for themselves, a young, ambitious couple. I knew they had big plans, a bigger apartment, maybe a fancy car. I, on the other hand, live a simple life. I have my teacher's pension, and this house. This house that Sean and I built together, filled with 30 years of memories. I never saw any fault lines in our relationship. I thought we were a team. I was so proud of my modern, loving family. I believed we had navigated the tricky waters of a daughter-in-law's family or a son-in-law's duty with nothing but grace. There was no family drama, or so I thought. My only job, I felt, was to love them and support them, without being a burden. It was Prima's birthday last week. They were coming over for dinner, and I had spent the whole day cooking her favorite dishes, mac and cheese, stir-fried beef. The house smelled of spices and love. I was doing a last-minute tidy-up. I moved the bread bin to wipe underneath it, and that's when I saw it. A small, folded square of paper, like it had been hastily shoved down and missed. Probably fell out of Rasha's pocket the last time he was over. I unfolded it, a small smile on my face, thinking it was a grocery list he'd written for me. But it wasn't. The heading was clear, Project Mom. My heart did a little, happy flip. A project for me? How sweet. Then I read the first bullet point. Strategy, maintain emotional leverage. Weekly calls, gifts. Keep her soft. The words didn't make sense at first. They were English words, but their arrangement felt alien, cold. I read on, my heart starting to thud against my ribs. Endgame, property transfer. Pension account access. Crucial she initiates this herself. Cannot seem forced. The paper trembled in my hand. The smell of the rich food I'd cooked suddenly felt sickening. This wasn't a note. It was a blueprint. A business plan. And I was the target. The doorbell rang. Their cheerful voices echoed through the house. Mom, we're here. It smells amazing. I shoved the note into my apron pocket. It felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric, right against my thigh. I pasted a smile on my face, but it felt brittle, like old paint. That dinner was the longest of my life. I watched them. I really watched them. I saw how Rasha's compliments about the food now sounded rehearsed. You cook with so much love, Mom. No one makes mac and cheese like you. Keep her soft. I saw how Prima held my hand and said, this house is so full of happy memories, isn't it? It's your sanctuary. Endgame, property transfer. Every kind word felt like a lie. Every affectionate gesture felt like a transaction. I was playing a part in a play I hadn't rehearsed for. In the days that followed, the loneliness was a physical weight. I'd wander from room to room in my too quiet house. I'd look at the family photos on the wall, all of us smiling, a perfect, happy tableau. Were any of those moments real? I started noticing small things. Prima began asking more pointed questions about my finances. "Mom, your pension account must be so complicated for you to manage alone. Maybe we should add Rosh as a nominee? He's so good with these things." Rosh started sending me links to beautiful, modern retirement communities. "Just look, Mom. Think of all the people your age you could meet. No maintenance worries." The pressure was subtle, but it was constant. They were cornering me with kindness, and the emotional hit was harder than any argument would have been. I felt myself shrinking in my own home, in my own life. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Prima came over, her face a mask of concern. She sat me down at the kitchen table, right where I'd found the note. "Mom," she began, her voice gentle. "Rosh and I are so worried. You've been so distant lately. We think you might be struggling to cope on your own. We found this brochure for a doctor, for early cognitive screening. It's just a precaution." She slid a glossy brochure across the table. And in that moment, the power balance in the room shifted completely. This wasn't just about greed anymore. This was a strategy. If they could suggest I was becoming incapable, unfit to manage my own affairs, then taking over everything would be so much easier. It would seem like a necessity, not a grab. The realization didn't make me angry, it made me cold. And clear. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just looked at my daughter, and for the first time, I saw the stranger in her eyes. I took a quiet, deep breath. "Thank you for your concern," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I will look into it." After she left, I knew what I had to do. It was time for my own plan. A quiet, dignified plan. First, I went to see Mr. Mallet, our old family lawyer and a friend of Shan's. I didn't go into the emotional family drama. I just stated the facts. I showed him the note. I told him I wanted to ensure my house and my finances were protected, according to my wishes. He nodded, his eyes kind and understanding. We began drafting new, ironclad legal documents.
Next, I called an old friend from my teaching days, a fiercely independent woman who ran her own small business. I needed an ally, someone outside the bubble of this betrayal. Over coffee, I told her everything. She didn't offer dramatic advice, just her steadfast presence. It reminded me I wasn't alone. My plan wasn't about revenge. It was about resolution. It was about taking back the narrative of my own life. I was composed, but I was resolved. I invited Prima and Rosh over on a Sunday afternoon. The same time they always used to come. The house was clean, the sun was out. It looked just like any other family day. I had 2 folders on the coffee table. They came in, all smiles. "Mom, you seem well today," Rosh said, beaming. I offered them coffee. We made small talk. And then, I picked up the first folder. "I found something of yours, Rosh," I said, my voice calm. I slid the original, crumpled note across the table. The silence that fell was absolute. I watched the color drain from their faces. Prima looked from the note to Rosh, her eyes wide with panic. Rosh just stared at it, unable to meet my gaze. "I've had a lot of time to think," I continued, still quiet. "And I've made some decisions about my future." I opened the second folder. "This is the new deed for the house. I've placed it in a trust. And these, I said, pointing to the other papers, are my updated financial directives. Mr. Mallet has the originals. Prima finally found her voice. Mom, please, that note, it was just as stupid. I held up my hand. Gentle, but firm. There is no explanation that will make this right. I looked at them, my heart aching for the people I thought they were. I love you both. That part was never a lie from my side. But this, I gestured to the note, this ends now. The strategy is over. That was 6 months ago. The relationship now is different. Colder, more distant. There are no more weekly calls. No more sweets. It's a quiet space where a loud love used to be. I've set my boundaries. They know where I stand. It's sad. Some days, the grief for what I lost feels heavier than the betrayal. But other days, I feel a quiet strength. I tend to my garden. I have lunch with my friends. I live in my house, on my own terms. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing your own peace over their chaos. I haven't closed the door on them completely. That small act of grace is for me, not for them. Maybe, in time, something new can grow. But it will be honest. It will be real. The family I thought I had was a beautiful illusion. But you can't build a life on a foundation of lies. You can only build it on truth, no matter how hard that truth hits. If this emotional story resonated with you, if you've ever faced a betrayal or a difficult truth in your own family, I understand. Please share your own thoughts in the comments below. And subscribe for more real-life stories about love, loss, and finding the strength to carry on.